The stars had always called to humanity. For centuries they looked up at the night sky and dreamed of what might be waiting beyond their reach. When Dr. Han finally cracked the code for faster-than-light travel in 2157, that dream became reality. The first human FTL ship, the HSS Pathfinder, pushed beyond the solar system's edge with a crew of 12 brave souls, heading toward the nearest star system. What they found changed everything. Not empty space, not lifeless planets, but a thriving, bustling galactic community that had existed for thousands of years. News spread quickly across Earth. Humanity was not alone. The streets filled with celebration, religious debates erupted, and governments scrambled to form a united front. Within months, Earth selected its finest diplomat, Ambassador Kim, to represent humanity before what they learned was called the Galactic Council. The Council headquarters orbited a massive blue star in the Orion Arm, a colossal space station, shaped like a spinning wheel with spokes extending from a central hub. As the human delegation's ship approached, they marveled at the ships of countless designs flowing in and out, like bees around a hive. "Look at the size of that one," whispered Captain Choi, pointing at a vessel that could have swallowed a small moon. "They must have been traveling the stars when our ancestors were still figuring out fire." Ambassador Kim nodded, her face tight with determination. "Remember why we're here. This is humanity's moment." The landing bay dwarfed their ship. Representatives from various embassy offices greeted them. Beings with too many limbs, beings with skin that shifted colors, beings who floated rather than walked. The human delegation tried not to stare as they were escorted to temporary quarters. "The Council will see you tomorrow," said their guide, a tall blue-skinned being named Trell. "You are the first new species to request membership in over a century. There is much curiosity about you." That night, few of the humans slept. They practiced their presentation, reviewed their data, and polished their proposal for council membership. Earth had united like never before for this moment, setting aside old conflicts to present a unified front to the galaxy. When morning came, by station time, they dressed in their formal attire and followed Trell to the council chamber. The chamber was massive, with seating for hundreds of representatives arranged in rising tiers around a central speaking platform. Light streamed in from a transparent dome above, casting rainbow patterns across the polished floor. Species of every imaginable form filled the seats, their conversations creating a buzz that fell silent as the human delegation entered. Ambassador Kim stepped to the central platform, her steps echoing. She looked tiny from the upper tiers, but her voice carried clearly through the chamber's perfect acoustics. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Council," she began, "I bring greetings from Earth and the United Nations of Humanity. We come in peace and friendship, seeking to join your community of worlds." She activated a holographic display showing Earth's achievements, its art, music, science, and technology. She spoke of human resilience, of how they had overcome planetary challenges and united their world. She showed their recent technological leap that had brought them to the stars. "We ask for full membership in the Galactic Council," she concluded. "We offer our unique perspective, our creativity, and our determination to contribute to galactic peace and prosperity." There was silence for 3 heartbeats. Then laughter erupted, starting from the section where the Vorax delegation sat. The Vorax, with their crystalline skin and 4 sets of eyes, were the oldest species in the council. Their laughter spread through the chamber like a wave. "The primitive biped thinks they're ready for membership," hooted a Vorax representative, his translator conveying his mocking tone perfectly. "They've barely left their Stone Age," called another voice. "Did you see their ship? It's practically held together with tape." Ambassador Kim stood straight backed, her face flushing, but her posture unwavering, as the laughter continued. Behind her, the human delegation exchanged glances of confusion and growing anger. The head of the council, a massive Vorax named Elder Krax, finally raised a hand for silence. "Ambassador Kim of Earth," he said, his voice deep and resonant, "your enthusiasm is charming. However, full membership requires technological advancement far beyond your current capabilities." He gestured to a display showing comparative technological levels. Earth's marker was near the bottom. Your species has only just developed faster than light travel. Most members achieved this milestone thousands of years ago. Your weapons are primitive. Your understanding of dimensional physics is rudimentary, and your society still experiences internal conflicts. Elder Crax's tone softened slightly. We recognize your potential, therefore we grant Earth Observer status. You may attend council meetings, but not vote. Your ships may travel within a designated sector around your home system, but no further, without special permission. Ambassador Kim started to protest, but Crax continued. This is our final decision. Perhaps in a few centuries your species will be ready for reconsideration. As they left the chamber, the human delegation could hear the Vorax representative warning others. Be careful with these humans. They're curious creatures, but ultimately insignificant. Their emotions make them unpredictable. Best to keep them contained until they mature. The humans returned to their ship in silence. Only when the doors closed behind them did Captain Choi slam his fist against the wall. They laughed at us, he said, his voice tight with anger. They actually laughed. Ambassador Kim looked out the viewport at the massive council station. They don't know us, she said quietly. They don't know what humans can do when underestimated. Is turned to her team. Send word to Earth. The galaxy thinks we're a joke. Let's show them just how wrong they are. 6 months passed since the Galactic Council had laughed at humanity. Back on Earth, people were still angry about it. News channels kept showing the recording of the council meeting where the aliens had made fun of humans. Many wanted to ignore the council completely, but Earth's leaders knew they couldn't turn their backs on the galaxy. Commander Park sat at his desk in the newly built Galactic Intelligence Division headquarters in Seoul. As head of Earth Space Intelligence Operations, he spent his days monitoring the limited data feeds the Council allowed humans to access. Most days brought nothing interesting: trade reports, cultural exchange announcements, and travel advisories for areas humans weren't permitted to visit anyway. Today was different. "Sir, you need to see this," said Lieutenant Jin, rushing into his office without knocking. Her face was pale as she handed him a data tablet. The screen showed fragmented distress signals from a council outpost in what they called the Rimwood territories. The translation was rough, but the panic was clear. Under attack, weapons ineffective, and request immediate. The message cut off. "When did this come in?" Park asked, already standing up. "Just now. It bypassed regular channels. Someone wanted us to see it." Over the next few days, more reports filtered in. Something was attacking council worlds on the outer rim of the galaxy. The official council news feeds mentioned only minor disturbances, but the unofficial channels told a different story. Entire planets were going dark. Park called an emergency meeting with Earth's Security Council. Something called the Scourge is attacking council worlds, he explained, showing the classified footage they'd gathered. The council is keeping it quiet to prevent panic. The footage showed massive, dark ships with organic-looking hulls. They moved in perfect unison, surrounding planets before launching smaller craft that swarmed like insects. "Our sources say they're a hive mind species from another galaxy," Park continued. "They don't communicate or negotiate. They just consume and move on." "Why should we care?" asked one of the council members. "The council made it clear we're not welcome." Park switched to another video, this one showing council defense ships firing at the invaders. Their weapons, energy beams that could shatter moons, passed harmlessly through the Scourge ships, as if hitting nothing at all. "Because their weapons don't work," Park said simply. "The Scourge use something called quantum phase shields. Council weapons can't touch them." The room fell silent. "If the council falls, how long before these things reach Earth?" asked the council leader. 2 weeks later, Commander Park received an unexpected visitor. A small shuttle arrived at Earth's orbital station carrying a single passenger. Trell, the blue-skinned guide who had first welcomed humans to the council station. "I come unofficially," Trell said when brought to Park's office. He looked around nervously. "If my government knew I was here..." "Why are you here?" Park asked directly. "Because we need help," Trell admitted. "The Council is losing the war against the Scourge, badly." He placed a data crystal on Park's desk. "This contains everything we know about the Scourge. Their ships, their technology, their movements. The Vorax don't want anyone to know how serious the situation is. They fear losing their position of power if word gets out they can't protect the galaxy. Park picked up the crystal. Why bring this to us? The Council made it clear they think we're just primitive apes. Trell's skin rippled with blue patterns, an expression Park couldn't interpret. Not everyone agrees with the Vorax assessment of humanity. Some of us see potential in your species. You think differently than the rest of us. After Trell left, Park and his team spent days analyzing the data. The situation was worse than they'd thought. 27 Council worlds had already fallen. The Scourge moved through Council defenses like they weren't even there. The quantum phase shields operate by shifting the Scourge ship slightly out of phase with normal matter, explained Dr. Yoon, Earth's leading physicist on the analysis team. That's why Council weapons pass right through them. It's like trying to hit a ghost with a rock. Park brought the findings to Earth's united government. The Council is losing this war, he stated flatly. Their weapons are useless against the Scourge shields. According to our projections, at the current rate of advance, the Scourge will reach Council core worlds within 3 months, Earth in less than a year. Can the Council develop new weapons? Someone asked. Park shook his head. They're trying, but their weapons technology has been standardized for thousands of years. They all use the same principles that don't work against these shields. They can't adapt quickly enough. What are our options? The President asked. We could try to stay neutral. Hope the Scourge ignore us, Park said. But given their pattern of consuming every world they encounter, that's unlikely to work. Or, prompted the President. Park pulled up an image on the main screen, a design for a modified Earth weapon system. Or we could do what humans have. Always done when backed into a corner. We adapt. A week later, reports came in of another Council world under attack, this one much closer to the core. Council defense ships were in full retreat after losing half their fleet without destroying a single Scourge vessel. As the Council representatives gathered for an emergency session, whispers spread through the chamber. The Vorax were failing. To protect them, the mighty Council, with all its advanced technology, was helpless against this threat. In his office on Earth, Commander Park received a direct communication request from the Council station. When he accepted, the face of Elder Krax appeared on his screen, the Vorax's crystalline features set in what looked like a painful grimace. Commander Park, said Krax, his normally condescending tone replaced with something far more subdued. I'm contacting you regarding a matter of, mutual concern. Park kept his face neutral. The Scourge, Krax's 4 sets of eyes blinked in surprise. You know of them? We've been monitoring the situation. Then perhaps, Krax said, choosing his words carefully, it might be beneficial for us to share information. Your species has a reputation for unconventional thinking. Park allowed himself a small smile. Funny how quickly we went from primitive bipeds to having valuable insights. Krax's skin darkened with what Park guessed was embarrassment or anger. The situation has changed. Yes, Park agreed, leaning forward. It certainly has. The emergency meeting room at Earth Space Defense Headquarters was packed. Representatives from every major nation sat around the massive table, watching as Dr. Lee paced back and forth. Her normally neat hair was messy, and dark circles shadowed her eyes from 3 days without proper sleep. While the Council races are still arguing about which ancient protocol to follow, she said, pointing to the screen showing a live feed of the Council's emergency session. We need to act. The Scourge will reach populated Council worlds within weeks. Dr. Lee was still bitter about her experience 6 months ago. When Ambassador Kim had presented Earth's scientific achievements to the Council, Lee had been there to answer technical questions. Instead, a Vorax scientist had openly mocked her theories on alternative propulsion systems, calling them adorably primitive. The memory still burned. I've analyzed the data Commander Park received, she continued. The Council's problem is that they've been using the same weapon systems for millennia. They're all variations of directed energy weapons, basically very advanced lasers. She pulled up a diagram of a Scourge ship and its shields. These quantum phase shields shift the ships partially out of our dimension. Energy weapons pass right through them because they're not fully in the same phase as the energy. Can we build weapons that can affect them? Asked the defense minister. Dr. Lee smiled for the first time in days. We already have them. The room went quiet. Think about it, she said, warming to her topic. What makes human weapons different from council weapons? We still use physical projectiles, missiles, kinetic rounds. The council thinks this makes us primitive, but physical matter interacts with the quantum field differently than energy does. She brought up a simulation showing a missile hitting a quantum phase shield. My theory is that solid matter, especially with certain properties, can't be fully phased out by their shields. It creates a disruption in the field. You're saying our primitive weapons might work when their advanced ones don't? Someone asked incredulously. Exactly, Lee nodded. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. The Defense Council wasted no time. Within hours, they approved a test mission. Captain Song of the HSS Thunder, Earth's newest and best-armed military vessel, volunteered his ship and crew. We'll need to modify our weapons systems, Song said during the briefing. Dr. Lee suggests coating our missile warheads with a specific isotope mixture that will maximize disruption of their shield frequencies. When asked about their chances, Song just smiled. My grandfather was a fishing boat captain in Busan. He used to say the smallest boat with the right bait can catch the biggest fish. 2 days later, the Thunder left Earth orbit, heading toward the restricted boundary the Council had set for human ships. A Council patrol ship immediately sent warnings, but Song transmitted Commander Park's special clearance codes, reluctantly provided by Elder Cracks as part of their new information sharing. The Council patrol let them pass, but sent an escort ship to monitor the humans. Captain Song knew they expected the Thunder to collect data and return to Earth. They didn't know his real mission. Using the intelligence provided by Trell, the Thunder set course for a system where Scourge ships had been spotted. As they traveled, Dr. Lee, who had insisted on coming along, worked with the ship's engineers to modify their weapons. Captain, called the sensor officer suddenly, 3 Scourge vessels just appeared on long-range scans. Song ordered battle stations. The Council escort ship immediately began transmitting warnings to the Thunder. They're telling us to retreat, Communications Officer Ju reported. They say we have no chance against even one Scourge ship. Tell them we appreciate their concern, Song replied calmly, and then switched to radio silence. The Thunder approached the Scourge ships from behind a small moon, engines running silent. They haven't spotted us yet, whispered the tactical officer, though there was no need to whisper in space. Everyone on the bridge was tense. Remember the plan, Song said to his crew. We're not fighting like the Council does. No neat formations. No standard approaches. We hit hard, we hit fast, and we don't stop moving. The Thunder shot out from behind the moon, engines flaring to full power. The Scourge ships, shaped like massive dark arrowheads, turned toward them with surprising speed. Energy. Build up in the lead ship, called the sensor officer. Evasive pattern Delta, Song ordered. The Thunder rolled and changed direction sharply. A maneuver Council ships would never use due to their size and rigid battle protocols. The Scourge weapon fired, a beam of sickly green energy that missed the Thunder entirely. Now, ordered Song. Thunder fired its first volley, 6 missiles with Dr. Lee's special warheads. On the view screen they watched as the missiles streaked toward the lead Scourge ship. In the Council escort ship, the alien crew watched in fascination as the primitive human vessel engaged in what they considered suicide. Their commander had already prepared a message of condolence to Earth. Then the missiles hit. The first 2 struck the Scourge's quantum shields and exploded, creating a visible ripple in the normally invisible barrier. The next 4 missiles passed through the destabilized section and struck the hull directly. The Scourge ship shuddered, dark pieces breaking off as secondary explosions rippled along its surface. It worked, Dr. Lee shouted, grabbing the nearest crew member in a hug. The shields can't fully phase out solid matter, especially with the isotope disruption. The other Scourge ships turned to focus on the Thunder. Song didn't give them time. To coordinate, Pattern Omega, he ordered. Fire all tubes. The Thunder executed a series of maneuvers no Council ship would ever attempt. Sharp turns, random acceleration changes, even deliberately cutting power to drift unpredictably, all while launching missile after missile at the Scourge ships. The Council escort watched in stunned silence as the human ship danced around the Scourge vessels. Their battle computers couldn't even predict the Thunder's movements. There was no logic to them, no standard pattern to analyze. Within 20 minutes, all 3 Scourge battle cruisers were destroyed or disabled. The Thunder had taken damage. 1 engine was offline, and they had hull breaches on 2 decks. But they had won. Song opened a channel to the Council escort. Please inform the Council that their Scourge problem has a solution. We're returning to Earth to rearm and make improvements to our approach. As the Thunder limped home, word of their victory spread across Council communications. By the time they reached Earth, the Council had already sent an official delegation, not to reprimand them for leaving their restricted zone, but to learn how they had accomplished the impossible. Dr. Lee stood proudly beside Captain Song as they briefed Earth's leaders and the Council representatives. Sometimes, she said, looking directly at the Vorax scientist who had mocked her 6 months earlier, being primitive has its advantages. The Grand Council chamber looked very different now. Instead of the orderly proceedings and polite debates that had dominated for thousands of years, the room buzzed with fear and urgent conversations. 3 more Council worlds had fallen to the Scourge in the past week alone. The mood was grim. Elder Crack stood at the central platform, his crystalline features set in what passed for a frown among the Vorax. The reports from the Thunder engagement have been verified, he said, his deep voice carrying less authority than usual. The human vessel destroyed 3 Scourge battle cruisers. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Many representatives had dismissed the initial reports as exaggeration or human propaganda. How? Demanded a reptilian delegate from the Zith Confederation. Our most advanced battleships can't even damage their shields. Cracks looked pained, as if the words hurt coming out. The humans use physical projectiles, missiles, solid matter, weapons. Apparently, the Scourge shields cannot fully phase out dense matter, especially when treated with certain isotopes. The chamber erupted. Some delegates shouted questions, others demanded immediate action. A few called for humanity to be given immediate access to all Council technology. Cracks raised his hands for quiet. We have requested that Earth send representatives to discuss cooperation. The massive doors at the rear of the chamber opened. Ambassador Kim walked in, flanked by Dr. Lee and Commander Park. They were dressed in formal Earth uniforms, heads held high. The chamber fell silent as they walked to the central platform. Gone was the nervousness of their first appearance. This time they moved with quiet confidence. Esteemed members of the Council, Ambassador Kim began, Earth has received your request for assistance against the Scourge threat. We are prepared to help. Thank you, said Crack stiffly. We would appreciate any technical information on your weapon modifications. Not so fast, Kim interrupted, something no one had ever done. To a Vorax elder in Council, Earth is willing to share our technology, train your crews and fight alongside you. But we have conditions. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Even in crisis, no one made demands of the Council. This is outrageous, sputtered the Vorax military commander, rising from his seat. You would blackmail us while we face extinction. Kim remained calm. Not blackmail, negotiation. The same courtesy and respect any equal partner deserves. Silence fell over the chamber. 6 months ago, you laughed at us, Kim continued. You called us primitive. You restricted our ships and denied us membership. Now you need our primitive weapons and tactics. We're willing to help, but as equals, not as second-class citizens of the galaxy. The chamber buzzed with conversation. Many delegates looked uncomfortable, but others were nodding. What are your terms? Cracks finally asked. Full Council membership for Earth, effective immediately. Unrestricted travel rights for human vessels, access to Council technology databases, and a command role in the defense against the Scourge. The Vorax military commander shot to his feet again. Absurd. These humans have no experience in galactic-scale warfare. They've had faster-than-light travel for less than a year. And yet, Dr. Lee said calmly, we're the only ones who've destroyed any Scourge ships. That silenced him. A younger Council race, the Kalari, stood in support. The humans have proven themselves. We support their conditions. One by one, other races indicated their agreement. The Vorax representatives looked around in shock as their traditional authority crumbled. "Very well," Krax conceded. "The Council will vote." The vote wasn't even close. With the Scourge advancing daily, pragmatism won over tradition. Earth was granted full membership, with all the rights and privileges that entailed. Within days, human engineers were swarming over Council warships, modifying their weapon systems. Dr. Lee led a team of Earth's best scientists, working alongside Council engineers who had centuries more experience but had never considered using physical projectiles in space combat. "Your energy weapons are far more powerful than anything we can build," Lee explained to a group of Council engineers. "But the Scourge have specifically adapted to counter them. Sometimes the old ways work best, simply because they're unexpected." Meanwhile, Commander Park worked with the Council military, teaching them tactics they had never considered. "Your ships always fight in formation," he explained, showing holographic battle simulations. "That makes your movements predictable. The Scourge can calculate exactly where you'll be." The alien commanders looked confused. "But formations maximize firing efficiency and defensive coverage," one argued. "They also make you easy targets," Park countered. "Watch how our ships move." He showed footage from the Thunder's battle. The Council commanders were astonished by the seemingly random maneuvers, the lack of recognizable patterns. "This is chaos," one complained. "Exactly," Park smiled. "Organized chaos. The Scourge are a hive mind. They excel at countering logical, predictable enemies, but they struggle against opponents who act unpredictably." Not all Council races were quick to adapt. The Vorax, especially, clung to their traditional methods. But the younger races, particularly the adaptable Kalari and the industrious Mantrix, embraced humanity's approach with enthusiasm. "Your people think differently," said a Kalari captain to her human trainer. "We've had peace for so long that we forgot how to truly fight. You humans still remember." Ambassador Kim found herself suddenly in demand at Council functions. Representatives, who had once looked down their noses, or whatever passed for noses in their species, at humans now sought her out, eager to form alliances and trade agreements. "It's amazing how quickly attitudes change when you have something they need," she remarked to Commander Park during a rare quiet moment. Park nodded. "Let's just hope it's enough. The Scourge are still advancing." The first real test came at the Belden system, where a combined Council fleet with human-modified weapons engaged a Scourge attack force. Using the new weapons and tactics, they destroyed 7 Scourge ships while losing only 2 of their own, an unprecedented victory. News spread quickly. More Council races began actively seeking human advisors. Earth suddenly found itself at the center of galactic politics, its representatives invited to strategic planning sessions that would have been unthinkable months earlier. In a particularly symbolic moment, the Vorax Supreme Commander grudgingly presented Captain Song with a ceremonial command blade, the highest honor in Vorax military tradition. "Your victory brought hope when we had none," the commander admitted. "The Council has existed for 50,000 years, yet in our complacency, we became vulnerable to exactly the kind of adaptive thinking your species excels at." Song accepted the blade with appropriate gravity. "Different perspectives make us all stronger," he said. "Perhaps that's the silver lining in this crisis. It's brought us together." As the combined fleet prepared for a major counter-offensive, humanity found itself in an unexpected position. Once dismissed as primitive newcomers, they were now valued allies, their outdated approaches providing the very innovations the galaxy needed to survive. The alliance had shifted, and the galaxy would never be the same. The combined fleet gathered near the edge of the Orion Arm, the largest assembly of ships the galaxy had ever seen. Over 2,000 vessels from 37 Council races, all modified with human-designed weapons systems, waited in loose formation. At the center of the fleet, the Earth flagship Defiant stood out with its blocky utilitarian design among the sleek Council vessels. On the Defiance's bridge, Admiral Yoon surveyed the tactical display. After weeks of smaller engagements pushing the Scourge back, intelligence had located their main fleet and something more. "The Queen ship is confirmed to be with their fleet," Commander Park reported, pointing to a massive signature at the center of the Scourge formation. "It's nearly 3 times the size of any Scourge vessel we've encountered." Yoon nodded. Then our intelligence was correct. The Scourge operate as a true hive mind, with the Queen coordinating their actions. The plan they had developed was bold. Some Council tacticians had called it insane. Rather than engaging in traditional ship-to-ship combat, they would focus entirely on reaching and neutralizing the Queen ship. Cut off the head, and the body would fall. "All ships report ready," said Communications Officer Min. "Council captains await your orders." It still felt strange to have ancient alien civilizations looking to humans for battlefield leadership, but in the weeks of fighting, they had proven their worth time and again. "Begin Operation Checkmate," ordered Yoon. The fleet moved forward, but not in the tight formations the Council races had used for millennia. Instead, they advanced in seemingly random patterns, each ship following unpredictable trajectories while maintaining overall forward momentum. The Scourge fleet responded immediately, moving to intercept in their usual perfect coordination. "They're reacting exactly as predicted," Park noted. "The hive mind expects logical patterns and responds with optimal counter-formations." The first shots were exchanged, Scourge energy beams lancing out at Council ships, while modified missiles streaked toward the Scourge vessels. Unlike previous encounters, the Council ships didn't maintain position to maximize firing arcs. Instead, they continuously changed course, making it nearly impossible for the Scourge to predict where they would be. "Phase 2, ordered Yoon when the fleets were fully engaged. Suddenly, a third of the Council fleet broke formation entirely, scattering in all directions. Another third accelerated straight toward the Scourge lines, while the remaining ships held position and concentrated. Fire. To an outside observer, it would have looked like complete chaos, or like the fleet had lost all coordination. In reality, it was carefully orchestrated confusion. "The Scourge are hesitating," Park reported with satisfaction. "Their formations are breaking up as they try to respond to multiple threats simultaneously." This was the human element that had changed everything. For thousands of years, space combat in the galaxy had followed predictable patterns: formations, counter-formations, calculated maneuvers. The Scourge hive mind excelled at countering such logical approaches, but humans had introduced unpredictability, false retreats, feints, and traps. Tactics that confused the singular consciousness controlling the Scourge fleet. As the battle raged, a small ship detached from the Defiance's launch bay. The assault shuttle carried Commander Park and a mixed team of human and Kalari special forces, the most agile and adaptable of the Council races. "Boarding team away," reported the tactical officer, "providing cover fire." The Defiance and 3 Council heavy cruisers concentrated fire on the area directly in front of the shuttle's path, clearing a corridor toward the massive Queen ship. "This is still a suicide mission," the Vorax liaison officer commented from his station on the Defiance's bridge. Admiral Yoon smiled grimly. "Perhaps, but Commander Park volunteered, and so did every member of his team. Sometimes you have to risk everything to win." Aboard the shuttle, Park briefed his team one final time. "Our objective is simple: reach the central node and plant the disruptor. According to the simulations, that should sever the Queen's connection to the hive." "If we succeed," added Jin, his second-in-command, "the entire Scourge fleet will be thrown into chaos. Individual ships with no coordination." "And if we fail?" asked a Kalari soldier. Park shrugged. "Then we die gloriously, and someone else can." "Try next time." The team shared a tense laugh as the shuttle rocked from a near miss. "Approaching target," called the pilot. "Their point defenses are tracking us." "Evasive pattern Sigma," ordered Park. The shuttle began a series of sharp, unpredictable maneuvers, making it harder for the automated defenses to lock on. A hit rocked the shuttle, sending warning lights flashing across the control panel. "Port engine damaged," the pilot reported. "We can still make it, but landing will be rough." "Just get us on that ship," Park said. The shuttle scraped along the hull of the Queen ship, tearing a gash in both vessels before coming to a stop. Emergency sealant foam deployed automatically, preventing decompression. "Everyone out," shouted Park. "We have 15 minutes before they locate and overwhelm us." The team moved through the alien corridors, encountering surprisingly little resistance at first. The Queen ship's internal structure was organic, more like being inside a living thing than a vessel. "They don't expect boarding actions," Jin observed. "The Scourge consume planets. They've never had to defend against enemies inside their ships." They reached a massive chamber pulsing with eerie blue light. At its center floated a structure like an enormous brain, connected to the ship by thousands of tendrils. "That's it," said Park, checking the scanner Dr. Lee had provided. The central node. As if sensing their presence, the chamber suddenly filled with Scourge drones, eyeless pale creatures that moved with terrifying speed. "Cover me!" Park shouted, sprinting toward the central node with the disruptor device. The team formed a defensive perimeter, their weapons cutting down the approaching drones. Park reached the node and planted the device directly on its pulsing surface. "Disruptor in place," he called, "setting timer for 60 seconds. "We need to move," Jin yelled back, firing continuously at the waves of drones. "There are too many." The team began a fighting retreat toward the shuttle. 3 of their number fell to the overwhelming Scourge forces. Park was the last one through the door, sealing it behind him as the timer counted down. "Can we get this thing flying again?" he asked the pilot. "Negative. We're grounded." Park nodded grimly. "Then we find a place to hold out and hope the disruptor works." Aboard the Defiance, Admiral Yoon watched anxiously as the timer on her display approached 0. "Any word from the boarding team?" "Nothing since they confirmed placement of the device," replied Min. The bridge fell silent as the countdown reached 0. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, across the battlefield, the Scourge ships began to move erratically. Some stopped firing entirely, while others began shooting in random directions. "It worked!" someone shouted. "All ships press." "The advantage," ordered Yoon. "Target any Scourge vessel still offering coordinated resistance." The combined fleet surged forward, now facing not a coordinated hive, but individual ships with no central control. Within hours, the battle had turned into a rout. 3 days later, the council chamber was packed beyond capacity. Representatives from every council race stood in respectful silence as the survivors of the boarding team, Commander Park among them, entered. Elder Krax himself placed the highest council honor around Park's neck. "For thousands of years," he said, his voice carrying throughout the chamber, "the council has prided itself on its wisdom. Yet we nearly perished because we refused to recognize the value in perspectives different from our own." He turned to address Ambassador Kim. "Humanity has proven itself not just worthy of membership, but essential to our continued survival." The formal recognition ceremony was met not with laughter this time, but with a standing ovation from every representative present, even the Vorax. Later, as the celebration continued, Park found himself standing next to a council historian who was updating the galactic records. "What are you adding?" "What are?" he asked curiously. The historian showed him the screen where a new entry was being recorded under Fundamental Axioms of Galactic Civilization. It read simply, "Underestimate humanity at your own peril." Park smiled. Not bad for a species that had only reached the stars a year ago. As he looked out at the celebration, humans mingling freely with dozens of alien species, he caught sight of a message alert on a nearby terminal. New signals detected from beyond the galaxy's edge. Another potential threat, or perhaps new allies. All eyes turned toward the human delegation. After all, who better to handle first contact than the species that had saved the galaxy through their unique perspective? The age of humanity among the stars had only just begun.